Some of y'all remember realizing that Diana Ross's extraordinary success came with strings attached. That the man who made her the biggest star in the world also controlled nearly every aspect of her life and career. Berry Gordy and Diana Ross had a relationship that was simultaneously romantic, professional, paternal, and exploitative. A complex entanglement that shaped both their lives and raised uncomfortable questions about power, control, love, and the price Diana paid for the success Berry orchestrated. Understanding their relationship means confronting difficult truths about how Black women navigated industries controlled by powerful men, about whether Diana was Berry's creation or her own woman, about where mentorship ended and manipulation began. Do you remember first hearing whispers about Diana and Berry's relationship? The speculation about whether they were together romantically and what that meant for Diana's career trajectory. The relationship wasn't publicly acknowledged for years, with both Diana and Berry maintaining professional distance publicly while privately being intimately involved. This secrecy itself was telling. Berry was married for much of their relationship. Acknowledging his involvement with Diana would have complicated both their images. The hidden nature of the relationship gave Berry power over Diana beyond just being her boss. Berry Gordy founded Motown Records in 1959 with a vision of creating Black music that could cross over to mainstream white audiences. He built an empire through a combination of genuine talent development, innovative production techniques, and rigorous artist training, but also ruthless business practices that favored Motown's interests over individual artist welfare. Berry was brilliant, controlling, visionary, and exploitative, all these things simultaneously. Understanding Berry is essential to understanding what happened with Diana. Diana came to Berry's attention as a teenager in the Primettes. Berry saw something in Diana beyond just her voice. He recognized star quality, ambition, malleability, and a hunger for success that matched his own drive. Berry understood that Diana could be shaped into the crossover star he needed to prove Motown's vision, that her features and presentation could appeal to white audiences, while her undeniable talent would satisfy Black audiences' demands for excellence. Diana became Berry's proof of concept, his demonstration that a Black woman from Detroit housing projects could become an international superstar if properly developed and managed. The grooming process Berry put Diana through was comprehensive and sometimes brutal. He sent the Supremes to charm school to learn proper etiquette and presentation, hired choreographers to perfect their movements, controlled their wardrobes and styling, coached their interviews, and gradually positioned Diana as the clear star, while Mary Wilson and Florence Ballard were relegated to supporting roles. This transformation transformed Diana from a talented but rough young woman into a polished, sophisticated performer. The transformation was extraordinary, but it came at the cost of Diana's autonomy and authenticity. Berry's romantic interest in Diana developed alongside the professional grooming, creating an entanglement that made it nearly impossible for Diana to separate personal feelings from professional obligations. Was Diana in love with Berry, or did she recognize that pleasing him romantically secured her position as his chosen star? Did Berry love Diana, or was he his most important business asset that he needed to control completely? These questions have no simple answers because the relationship contained elements of genuine affection mixed with obvious power imbalance and exploitation. Some of y'all remember feeling uncomfortable about Diana and Berry's relationship, recognizing that no matter how successful Diana became, Berry maintained ultimate control through his ownership of Motown, his control of her contracts, and his emotional hold over her. Diana might be the star on stage, but Berry decided which songs she recorded, which producers she worked with, when she'd leave the Supremes, when she'd make movies, which roles she'd play. and virtually every other significant decision about her career. This level of control exceeded normal record label oversight to become something more totalizing and concerning. The birth of Rhonda in 1971, Berry's daughter, whom Diana bore while unmarried, crystallized the complicated nature of their relationship. Berry was involved with other women when Rhonda was conceived, making Diana the other woman despite being his most important professional priority. The pregnancy created a crisis that required management, leading to Diana's marriage to Robert Silberstein just months before Rhonda's birth. Berry's willingness to let another man marry Diana while she carried Berry's child showed the complicated way Berry compartmentalized his relationship with Diana. She was too valuable professionally to let personal complications derail her career, so they would manage the situation through strategic marriage and secrecy. Robert Silberstein agreeing to marry Diana while knowing she was pregnant with Berry's child raises its own questions about power dynamics and what people will accept when dealing with powerful men like Berry Gordy. Robert received something from the arrangement: marriage to Diana Ross, a potential father role for Berry Gordy's child, connection to the Motown empire. But he was also participating in a deception that protected Berry and Diana while creating complicated family dynamics that would eventually require untangling when Rhonda learned the truth about her paternity. The secrecy around Rhonda's paternity for 16 years showed how completely Berry controlled the narrative and image, manipulating reality to protect his interests and Diana's marketability. Berry had enough power to orchestrate Diana's marriage to another man, maintain secret paternity of his child, continue his relationship with Diana even after her marriage to Bob, and ensure that nobody spoke publicly about the arrangement until Berry was ready to acknowledge Rhonda decades later. This level of control of other people's lives and stories is extraordinary and troubling. Diana's solo career launch in 1970 was entirely Berry's creation and vision. He'd been planning it for years, gradually positioning Diana for solo success while maintaining the Supreme's commercial viability, carefully timing the transition to maximize Diana's chances of success. The orchestration showed Berry's business brilliance. He controlled every variable he could control, invested enormous resources in Diana's solo launch, and delivered the success he'd envisioned. But Diana's solo success also deepened her dependence on Berry, proving that she needed him to maintain the career trajectory he'd created for her.
Berry's decision to make Diana a movie star through Lady Sings the Blues demonstrated both his vision for Diana's career and his willingness to spend enormous resources, developing her into the multi-dimensional entertainer he believed she could become. The film required significant investment, political maneuvering, careful management of Diana's performance, and strategic marketing to make Diana's film debut successful despite her lack of acting experience. Berry orchestrated all of this, proving he could open doors and create opportunities that Diana couldn't have accessed without him. Do you remember how Lady Sings the Blues earned Diana an Academy Award nomination, validating Berry's vision and proving he understood Diana's potential better than critics who'd questioned whether a pop singer could act? The nomination was a triumph for both Diana and Berry, showing that Berry's belief in Diana's abilities wasn't just favoritism, but an accurate assessment of her talent. The success justified Berry's investment and control, making it harder for Diana or anyone else to question his management when his decisions kept delivering extraordinary results. Berry's subsequent direction of Diana in Mahogany showed the darker side of his control. The film was a self-indulgent passion project that Berry directed himself, starring Diana in a role that seemed designed more to showcase Berry's vision of Diana than to tell a compelling story. The romantic relationship between Berry and Diana played out on screen in uncomfortable ways, with their real-life dynamics visible in the fictional relationship. The film's commercial and critical failure suggested that Berry's control over Diana's career had limits and that his judgment wasn't infallible. The mahogany failure created tension in Diana and Berry's relationship. Diana was reportedly frustrated by the film's problems and Berry's directorial limitations. This was a rare moment when Diana's interests and Berry's interests diverged. Diana needed successful films to maintain her movie career, while Berry's ego investment in Mahogany made it unable to see or address the film's problems. The tension revealed that their relationship could be strained when Berry's decisions didn't serve Diana's interests, though Diana's dependent position meant she couldn't simply refuse to participate in Berry's vision even when she questioned it. Berry's controlling nature extended beyond just professional decisions to encompass Diana's personal relationships, her public image, her financial arrangements, and virtually every aspect of her life. Diana lived under constant surveillance and management, with Berry or his representatives monitoring her activities and controlling her access to information about her own career. This level of control infantilized Diana, treating her as property to be managed rather than as an autonomous adult capable of making her own decisions.
We're already working on a video about Diana Ross's decision to finally leave Motown in 1981. What pushed her to walk away from Berry after decades of control, and whether she ever truly escaped his influence. Press the subscribe button now so you don't miss it. The financial arrangements between Diana and Motown favored Berry and the company substantially more than they favored Diana. Berry structured contracts to ensure Motown captured the majority of profits from Diana's work, paying Diana well enough to maintain her loyalty, but not fairly relative to the value she generated. Diana didn't own her master recordings, didn't control her image rights. Berry's financial control kept Diana dependent, even as she became wealthy by ordinary standards. Some of y'all remember comparing Berry's treatment of Diana to his treatment of other Motown artists, recognizing that while Diana received preferential treatment, she was still being exploited through the same fundamental practices: unfair contracts, minimal royalties, company ownership of masters. Diana's special relationship with Berry gave her advantages, but it didn't fundamentally change the exploitative economic structure that benefited Berry at artists' expense. Berry's relationships with other women while maintaining his connection to Diana showed how he compartmentalized relationships. Diana was his professional masterpiece and the mother of one of his children, but she wasn't his only romantic partner. Berry had multiple children with different women, creating complex family dynamics. Diana's position as the professional and most important woman in Berry's life didn't translate to an exclusive romantic claim. The psychological impact of Diana's relationship with Berry, the way it shaped her self-concept, is difficult to fully assess, but clearly significant. Growing up under Berry's control meant Diana never had the opportunity to develop complete independence. Diana learned to please Berry, to anticipate his expectations, to shape herself to his desires, creating an identity that was fundamentally entangled with Berry's presence, even when they weren't physically together. Diana's gradual movement toward independence during the 1970s showed that she recognized the problematic nature of their relationship. Small assertions of autonomy, increasing willingness to question Berry's decisions. Diana's marriage to Bob Silberstein gave her some distance. Her increasing interest in business matters showed growing awareness that Berry's management might not serve her interests. Berry's resistance to Diana's independence efforts showed he viewed her as his creation rather than as an autonomous person. When Diana questioned decisions or showed signs of wanting more control, Berry would reassert his authority. remind Diana that he'd made her successful and could maintain or destroy that success. This pattern of control and resistance to Diana's autonomy is characteristic of abusive relationships, though Diana and Berry's relationship also contained elements of genuine care and mutual benefit that complicated simple characterization as abuse.
Diana's eventual decision to leave Motown in 1981 represented the culmination of years of growing frustration with Berry's control and recognition that staying at Motown meant never achieving true independence or fair financial arrangements. The departure was difficult and painful, involving complex negotiations, emotional confrontations, and Diana's acceptance that she would have to leave behind the infrastructure and support system that had sustained her career for 2 decades. Diana was essentially divorcing Berry professionally after having already divorced him personally years earlier. Do you remember the news that Diana was leaving Motown for RCA, and the shock many people felt that she would walk away from Berry and the label that had made her famous? The departure seemed risky. Diana was in her late 30s, an age when female artists often saw their commercial viability decline. Leaving the proven successful partnership with Berry for unknown territory at RCA, where she'd have to prove herself without Berry's machinery. Some people admire Diana's courage in finally asserting independence, while others predicted she'd fail without Berry's guidance and management. The terms of Diana's departure from Motown revealed the extent of Berry's control. Berry negotiated terms, ensuring Motown retained ownership of Diana's master recordings, maintained rights to the Supreme's name and legacy, and received ongoing financial benefits from Diana's past work. Diana's departure was expensive in both financial and emotional terms, showing that leaving Berry required paying a significant price, even after years of generating enormous profits for Motown. Diana's RCA years showed both her ability to succeed without Berry's daily involvement and the ways Berry's influence had shaped her. Diana's RCA albums had moments of commercial success and artistic achievement, proving she wasn't entirely Berry's creation. But Diana's RCA output was inconsistent, never quite matching the sustained success of her Motown years, suggesting that Berry's involvement had provided quality control and strategic direction that Diana and her new team couldn't fully replicate. The gradual reconciliation between Diana and Berry after their professional divorce showed that their connection transcended business considerations. Whatever else their relationship had been, it contained genuine care and affection that survived the breakup. Berry and Diana remained in each other's lives through their shared daughter, Rhonda, through their shared history that nobody else fully understood. The reconciliation happened slowly over years of gradually rebuilding trust and finding new ways to relate that didn't repeat the problematic patterns of their past relationship. Some of y'all remember Berry's later public acknowledgments of Diana's importance to Motown and to his life. The way he spoke about her with obvious pride, affection, and respect. Berry recognized that Diana had been his greatest artist and most important collaboration, that her talent and dedication had been essential to Motown's success. These later reflections suggested Berry understood, at least partially, the complicated nature of what they'd shared and the costs Diana had paid for the success he'd orchestrated. Diana's own reflections on Berry and their relationship had been characteristically guarded and diplomatic, acknowledging his importance to her career while avoiding detailed discussion of the control and exploitation. Diana has said Berry was brilliant, visionary, and essential to her development. But Diana has been less forthcoming about the costs of that relationship, the ways it limited her autonomy and kept it dependent. This guardedness suggests Diana remains conflicted about the relationship,
or protective of privacy around such personal matters. The question of whether Diana would have achieved similar success without Berry is impossible to answer definitively. Berry's supporters argue that Diana's talent was raw and undeveloped when Berry found her, that without Berry's vision, training, and willingness to invest in her development, Diana might have been just another talented singer who never reached mainstream success. Diana's supporters argue that her talent was extraordinary regardless of Berry's involvement, that other producers and managers could have developed her successfully if given the chance. Diana's post-Motown success, though inconsistent, proves she could work without Berry and still achieve commercially and artistically. Her enduring legend suggests her impact transcended Berry's specific contributions. The truth likely lies somewhere between these extremes. Diana had extraordinary talent that gave her potential for greatness, while Berry provided specific opportunities, training, and strategic direction that helped that potential become realized success. Their collaboration was a genuine synergy where each contributed essential elements. But the relationship's power imbalance meant Berry controlled most aspects of the collaboration and extracted more benefit from it while Diana bore more costs and limitations. The broader implications of Diana and Berry's relationship extend beyond their individual story to reveal systemic issues about how women, particularly Black women, navigated a male-dominated entertainment industry, where success often required relationships with powerful men who provided access and opportunity while expecting control and submission in return. Diana's experience wasn't unique. Diana's high-profile example and eventual assertion of independence provided a model for other women navigating similar situations.
The contemporary reassessment of Diana and Berry's relationship through the lens of #MeToo awareness and evolving understanding of power dynamics cast their story in a harsher light than earlier generations might have applied. What was once romanticized as a passionate creative partnership between a brilliant man and an extraordinary woman is now more clearly recognized as a relationship with a problematic power imbalance, where a woman's autonomy was systematically limited by a man who controlled her career, finances, and access to opportunities. This reassessment doesn't erase the genuine care and collaboration that existed, but contextualizes it within frameworks of exploitation and control. Do you remember conversations with younger people about Diana and Berry's relationship, being shocked by the control Berry exercised and the ways Diana's autonomy was limited? What seemed normal or even romantic to earlier generations, the powerful mentor shaping his protege, looks more troubling when examined through contemporary understanding of consent. Berry's control over Diana extended beyond normal management into territory that would today be recognized as inappropriate and potentially actionable. The question of Diana's agency throughout the relationship, whether she was a victim of Berry's control or an active participant who accepted trade-offs, reflects broader debates about women's choices. Diana made choices throughout her relationship with Berry, accepting his control in exchange for the career success and resources he provided, sometimes pushing back against his authority, but ultimately remaining in the relationship for decades. These choices were made under constraints that limited her options and shaped what she believed was possible. Some of y'all remember defending Diana against characterizations of her as Berry's puppet or creation, arguing that Diana's talent and work ethic were real, regardless of Berry's role. That dismissing Diana as merely Berry's creation diminished her genuine contributions. Diana was a talented singer and performer before Berry, remained talented throughout their relationship, and continued being talented after leaving Motown. Berry developed and showcased that talent, but didn't create it from nothing. The financial legacy of Diana and Berry's relationship
who benefited economically from decades of Diana's work, reveals ongoing consequences of the exploitative contracts. Berry and Motown retained ownership of master recordings, meaning Diana receives relatively modest royalties from her most famous work, while Berry's estate continues profiting substantially. Diana's economic disadvantage relative to the value she created is a direct result of the power imbalance in her relationship with Berry. The family dynamics created by Diana and Berry having Rhonda together while both involved with other people resulted in a complicated blended family situation. Rhonda's discovery of her true paternity, Tracy and Chudney learning their father wasn't Rhonda's biological father. All these complications stemmed from choices Diana and Berry made about managing their relationship. The children bore costs of their parents' complicated relationship and the secrecy surrounding it. Looking back at Diana Ross and Berry Gordy's relationship reveals uncomfortable truths about how success was achieved in the entertainment industry, about the prices talented women paid for opportunities to showcase their talents. Diana's relationship with Berry was simultaneously enabling and constraining, providing opportunities while limiting freedom, delivering success while extracting heavy costs. The enduring question is whether the trade-off was worth it. Did Diana receive fair value for what she gave up in autonomy, financial benefit, and personal freedom? Diana became one of the most famous and successful entertainers in history, but she also spent decades under another person's control, never fully owning her work or image. Whether the success Berry orchestrated justified the control he exercised depends on whose values and priorities you apply. The lessons from Diana and Berry's relationship extend beyond their individual story to inform how we understand power dynamics and how we support women asserting autonomy, even when doing so means leaving behind infrastructure that has sustained them. Diana's eventual departure from Motown provides a model for leaving controlling relationships. Diana showed it was possible to survive and continue succeeding without the man who'd controlled her career for decades. What do you think about Diana Ross and Berry Gordy's relationship? Was Berry a brilliant mentor who developed Diana's talent, or a controlling man who exploited her? Did Diana receive fair value for giving Berry so much control over her life? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments below. This is a complicated story that deserves nuanced discussion. Hit that like button. And if you want to help us preserve these complex, truthful stories about our icons, examining power, control, love, and exploitation honestly, please subscribe.